Today I want to talk to you about evolution. Yay! So evolution happened by accident. That's part of the definition, right? A series of random accidents that over the course of 3.5 billion years can change a bacteria into a Homo sapien. And because of this, most of what evolution has made is completely inefficient. Take your apple, for example. A plant that has to have its seeds eaten to reproduce has a much harder time than one that can spread its seeds on its own, like a dandelion. If you have to rely on some animal to eat your fruit before you can reproduce, you're vulnerable to not just plant diseases, but also things that affect animals, like plagues or humans hunting them. You also have to worry about where your seeds are actually going to end up after they get eaten, and you have zero control over it. They could end up sunning on a rock in the middle of nowhere as easily as they could end up next to a nice grassy river. There's no way that this system would be like this if it had been designed, and evolution is riddled with even more ridiculous things. An example that's a bit closer to home is human psychological disorders. With all of our advanced brain science that's not really as advanced as we like to think it is, we've determined that a lot of the psychological disorders that are commonly diagnosed are chemically based, which means they can be treated with drugs to greater or lesser extents. But if they're chemically based, it means our brains were evolved to do that, and that seems like a pretty huge hole in how we were developed. I mean, if you were designing a species, would you include a switch that, at random, with very few warning signs, in a significant portion of the population could trigger a complete psychotic break and essentially reduce that organism to non-functioning? Of course not. That would be insane, but clearly it exists. And the reason is because evolution doesn't do things well, it does things well enough. I mean, what if we could see more of the light spectrum than that tiny little sliver that we call visible light? Just imagine how beautiful the sky would look if we could see those ultra long wavelengths that are all over the universe. But we can't see them, and the reason is because we don't need them to survive, even if it would be really awesome. But even if I have issues with the limitations of the human body in mind, consider all of the really amazing stuff that has been developed accidentally, like complex coevolution, where neither species can survive without the other anymore, like bees and flowers, or humans and all of the bacteria that live inside us, or complex social behaviors in animals like fish or monkeys or humans or even insects, or sex. I think that was a pretty huge win for evolution. Actually, I just watched a super interesting video on the channel SciShow about cicadas, which apparently only come out of the ground in huge swarms every 15 years or so to have sex for a summer and then die. And while this seems pretty weird, it means that they have the longest lifespan of any insect on the continent because they spend 98% of their life underground. Here's another fun fact I recently learned about evolution and coconuts, which is that the reason that they're so big and tough on the outside is that they have been evolved to spread by the ocean. Like literally floating along the ocean. That's crazy. Seriously, as inefficient as it might be, evolution has come up with some pretty amazing stuff, and stuff that wouldn't have been developed if a designer had to specifically go in and make every part. And I guess that's where efficiently designed life is inferior to evolved life. There's just so much that would never have happened if it had to be intentionally invented for every species. As it stands, there are countless billions of species that are all doing at least a moderately good job at staying alive. Just some thoughts. I'll talk to you soon.